I woke up in my Chicago apartment on Thanksgiving morning, and a familiar feeling of anxiety took hold of my chest right away. Another family gathering, another year. This time, the event took place at Palm Beach, Florida's opulent resort hotel, The Breakers. My grandfather paid for every expenditure of our family's yearly vacation. I sighed deeply as I checked my baggage one more time. I looked in the mirror at my image. I'm 32 years old, and my name is Julia Carson. I earn $170,000 a year as a research director for a pharmaceutical business. I live alone in Chicago and have made wise investments to gradually increase my wealth. My grandpa used to say, "Money is important, but dignity is even more valuable." My grandfather built his fortune in construction and is now a prosperous businessman. He taught me everything I know about money management. He has been teaching me about investing and asset management since I was a little child. The only family member who genuinely gets me is him. My sister Laura is the complete opposite. She used to be a flight attendant but is now a full-time housewife. She lives what seems like a lavish life with her husband and their 7-year-old daughter, but the reality is different. Without our grandfather's financial help, their extravagant lifestyle wouldn't be possible. He pays for their high mortgage, car loans, and their daughter's private school tuition. Despite this, Laura's social media is filled with posts showcasing her luxurious life. New designer bags, expensive dinners, extravagant vacations. She's obsessed with projecting an image far from reality. My parents, Robert and Amanda, are no different. They act as if they're enjoying a comfortable retirement in Florida, but that too is sustained by my grandfather's support. From their retirement home's deposit to their overall financial planning, everything depends on him. Growing up, my parents were always cold toward me but incredibly indulgent with Laura. That never changed. When I was in college, I paid for my tuition through scholarships and covered my living expenses by working part-time jobs. Meanwhile, Laura relied entirely on our parents, who paid for everything, including her study abroad expenses. The unfairness of it all still stings. Become someone who can stand on their own feet. That was another one of my grandfather's sayings. I've lived by those words, working hard to become independent. I built my career in the pharmaceutical industry, grew my wealth through smart investments, and created a life where I don't rely on anyone's support. The high-rise apartment overlooking Chicago's skyline, I earned it myself. I enjoy moderate luxury but always within my means. As I grabbed my suitcase, the usual anxiety about Thanksgiving grew stronger. Every year our family's issues only seemed to deepen. Laura's obsession with appearances, my parents' favoritism, and my grandfather's growing concern for the future. On my way to the airport in the taxi, I thought about this year's trip. The Breakers was a prestigious 5-star hotel built in 1895 with stunning Italian Renaissance architecture, and suites costing over $900 a night. The Thanksgiving dinner alone was priced at $200 per person. Despite the luxurious setting, the truth was clear. Our family's reality was fragile. My sister's extravagant lifestyle, my parents' retirement, all of it was built on the unstable foundation of my grandfather's financial support. And this year I had a feeling things were about to fall apart. As I gazed out the taxi window from Palm Beach International Airport to the Breakers, the warm Florida sun streamed in. It was a beautiful Thanksgiving day. The moment I arrived at the resort, I could feel the grandeur surrounding me. I was the last to arrive, pulling my navy Rimowa suitcase behind me. I stepped into the magnificent Italian Renaissance-style building. After the long flight, my simple yet elegant theory dress was slightly wrinkled. The hotel lobby was stunning, clean, and dignified with luxurious chandeliers sparkling overhead and the soft sound of footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Guests were already enjoying their Thanksgiving afternoon in various ways. As I walked toward the front desk, I spotted my parents sitting in a quiet corner of the lobby, deep in conversation. My mother was wearing what appeared to be a new resort dress, and my father was dressed casually, fitting for his age. The moment our eyes met, they quickly looked away. I wasn't surprised. "Miss Carson, I'm sorry, but I can't seem to find your reservation," the front desk staff said, sounding apologetic. They kept checking their screen repeatedly, their confusion growing. "I can see the reservations for your family members, but..." Before they could finish, the sharp sound of high heels clicking against the marble floor caught my attention. I turned and saw Laura approaching, her expression smug. She carried an Hermes Birkin bag on her arm, and her Cartier watch gleamed under the lobby lights. "Oh, Julia, you finally made it," she said with obvious sarcasm. The front desk staff continued checking their system while nearby guests started to notice the situation. Laura's voice grew louder, deliberately drawing more attention. "How strange that there's no reservation for you," she said, her tone laced with mock concern. Her Louis Vuitton suitcase stood prominently beside my navy one, an obvious contrast. Then, stepping even closer, she smirked. "Actually, I only made reservations for our family." Her voice echoed in the elegant lobby. She didn't stop there. With a victorious smile, she added, "I booked a room for me, my husband, and my daughter, and of course one for Mom and Dad, just for the real family, you see." For a moment, everything fell silent. The front desk staff looked completely lost for words. My parents turned their backs even more, as if pretending they weren't part of this conversation. The air around me felt cold and heavy. I took a slow, deep breath, keeping my face neutral. "I see," I said calmly. "Then I leave." My voice was steadier than I expected. Without another glance at Laura, I tightened my grip on my suitcase handle and gave a polite nod to the front desk staff. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I opened the taxi hailing app, my fingers moving instinctively. "Wait." Laura's voice rose slightly, but I ignored it, already preparing to leave the lobby. I could feel the sympathetic gazes from the front desk staff as I made my way toward the entrance. My sister, though caught off guard by my unexpected response, still maintained her triumphant expression. Our parents stood awkwardly, frozen in place, the tension in the air palpable. Only the sound of my footsteps echoed through the silent lobby. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the main entrance felt unnaturally bright. As I waited for the taxi, palm trees swayed gently in the warm breeze. The Thanksgiving holiday I had planned to spend at this luxury resort had ended within minutes. Yet, in this moment, a strange sense of liberation spread through my heart. Grandfather's words surfaced in my mind once more. "Become someone who can stand on their own feet." Now I finally understood the true depth of those words. While waiting, I took in the hotel's grand exterior. The Adam-style architecture, rich with over 100 years of history, stood magnificently adorned for the Thanksgiving celebrations. Luxury cars pulled up one after another, with well-dressed families stepping out, their laughter filling the air. Through the lobby's glass doors, I spotted my niece, Emma, dressed in an expensive outfit that seemed far too extravagant for a 7-year-old. She fidgeted behind her mother, perhaps looking for me. Every Thanksgiving, I had a tradition of bringing her a gift. This year I had picked out a pearl hair clip, now lying untouched in my suitcase, still beautifully wrapped. As soon as my taxi arrived, I stepped inside. "Palm Beach International Airport, please," I told the driver. While the car pulled away from the hotel, I searched for the next available flight to Chicago. Thanksgiving flights were expensive, but the cost didn't matter. What truly felt expensive was the emotional energy I had wasted year after year for this holiday. Through the rearview mirror, I watched as the Breakers Hotel grew smaller in the distance. Its pristine structure gleamed under the afternoon sun, a perfect representation of our family's carefully curated facade. But now the first crack had formed. There was no turning back. Inside the taxi, I finally had a moment of peace. The quiet hum of the air conditioning, the soft feel of the premium leather seats, it all slowly eased the tension from my body. The scenery outside, typically captivating, felt distant. Palm trees lined the roads. White luxury homes gleamed in the sunlight, and occasional glimpses of the Atlantic Ocean sparkled beyond them. Normally, this view would have mesmerized me. Today, it barely registered. I picked up my phone and dialed grandfather's number without hesitation. The ringtone felt longer than usual before he finally answered. "Julia, what's wrong?" His voice carried the usual composure, but I could detect a hint of concern. "I have something to report," I said in a steady voice, without allowing emotion to seep through. I recounted everything: the missing reservation, Laura's words, and how I had left. I laid out the events plainly as they had happened. On the other end, I heard a sharp inhale. Grandfather's breathing turned slightly rough, a telltale sign of his controlled anger. Yet, I didn't say anything to seek sympathy. "I understand. I'll handle this from here," he finally said, his voice low and decisive. Those few words carried a weight that hinted at the storm brewing ahead. After hanging up, my phone immediately started vibrating with incoming calls, first from Laura. Within 15 minutes, she had tried over 10 times. "Julia, Emma wants to see you. She was looking forward to our Thanksgiving tradition. Can't you consider a child's feelings?" Then her tone shifted. "My friends are coming for dinner tonight. I was planning to post the perfect family Thanksgiving on Instagram. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is for me?" Her voice grew increasingly hysterical as I ignored her calls. Emails from my parents started flooding in. "We could have added another room," my mother wrote. "But as Laura said, we prioritize the real family. You're independent now, aren't you?" Her words carried the same coldness I had known my whole life. Then came my father's message, just as heartless. "Laura has a family, a husband and child. You understand that, right? Can't you just put up with it for Thanksgiving? That's always been your problem. Only thinking about yourself, never about the family." Mother's next email made it even worse. "We had everything planned for social media. Lovely photos of you and Emma. It's all ruined now." My chest tightened with every message, yet none of it surprised me. This pattern had existed since childhood. My sister was always favored. I had always been the afterthought. As the taxi neared the airport, another wave of messages hit. "Because of your selfishness, Emma is crying. She was waiting so long to see you." Laura's messages persisted, using her daughter as a shield until the very end. But beneath her words, all I saw was her vanity and pride. Mother's sarcasm followed soon after. "Poor Laura. If only you knew how desperate she is about Emma's future. But children's education costs money. You wouldn't understand." Yet for the first time I felt no urge to respond. Instead, I felt grateful they had finally revealed their true colors so clearly, leaving no room for doubt. Just before reaching the airport, my phone chimed with a new email. It was from Grandfather. "I'm proud of your decision. I understand everything." For a brief moment, my eyes welled up, not with sadness, but with quiet determination. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of something new. Despite the continuous flood of calls and accusatory messages, "Your selfishness is tearing the family apart," I had already reached a place where their words no longer held power over me. After getting out of the taxi, I started walking toward the international terminal. While booking my flight to Chicago, I felt an unexpected sense of freedom. This was the moment, my chance to break free from the false family I'd been stuck in. About 30 minutes after boarding the plane, a new email from my grandfather arrived. It was sent to everyone in the family. The email started in his usual formal style. "Today on Thanksgiving, something happened that has deeply damaged our family's dignity. The cruel treatment of Julia is a stain on the Carson family name and cannot be ignored. Effective immediately, I am freezing all financial support to Robert, Amanda, and Laura. You must understand that your luxurious lives depend on my support. Those who have lost sight of what truly matters and are drowning in vanity and lies will no longer enjoy such privileges." As I finished reading, my sister's calls started coming in. There were so many. Her panic was clear in the repeated messages. "Julia, please answer. Answer. Convince Grandpa." I could hear how desperate she was. Without our grandfather's $30,000 a month, her life was about to fall apart. Emails from our parents flooded my inbox too, with the same desperate tone. "Julia, this is about our retirement. Please talk to Grandpa." Without the $150,000 deposit for their luxury retirement home and medical insurance subsidies, their comfortable life would be over. It was clear they were scared. Their tone was completely different from before. I could see how much their stability depended on the money they received. Do something. He'll listen to you, won't he? My mother's email begged. I quietly turned off my phone, watching the vast clouds outside the window. The perfect Thanksgiving photos they had posted every year wouldn't be shared this time. I realized for Laura that might be an even bigger blow than the money itself. The plane flew steadily toward Chicago, and the passenger next to me was browsing Thanksgiving dinner recipes on their phone. Normally, I'd be preparing a gift for Emma in the hotel lounge after landing, but now I was on my own. When I connected to Wi-Fi in Chicago, there were over 100 unread messages. Most were from my sister, her panic growing with every message. What am I supposed to do? I can't pay the loans. What about Emma's school fees? Emails from my parents were the same. We won't get our retirement home deposit back. What now? They were realizing the harsh reality, but what caught my attention most was the email from Grandpa, titled Final Notice. It was clear and final. This is irreversible. Any objections will result in the loss of all remaining support. I read through the messages calmly. The desperate tone of each family member, once so proud, now revealed their true selves. I set my phone down and made tea in the hotel's kitchen. I usually would have been enjoying a $200 Thanksgiving dinner by now. My sister's family always posted pictures of their lavish meals, but the truth was they could barely pay their credit card bills. A new call came in, this time from my sister's husband. I found hidden debts, he said, his voice filled with shock. The credit card bills are out of control. We can't keep living like this anymore. With Grandpa's support cut off, their once glamorous lifestyle was crumbling fast. They were even considering moving to a cheaper house and finding a public school for Emma. Laura cried every night, and her husband sounded exhausted, almost resigned. Their marriage seemed to be falling apart as well. Meanwhile, my life continued with little change. I arrived at work at 8 a.m. and went home at 6 p.m., just like usual. My weekends were spent attending investment study groups, reviewing my savings, and continuing to live within my means. Just yesterday, I was promoted to team leader for a new research project with a salary that would gradually increase. My investment trust operations were going smoothly, and I had no worries about the future. Vanity brings only temporary satisfaction, but savings bring lasting peace of mind. I could feel the weight of Grandpa's words more than ever now. While my parents worried about their retirement and security, and my sister struggled with debt, I was simply continuing my ordinary life. Over the past 2 weeks, the emails and calls had dropped off significantly. The daily desperate messages from the beginning had turned into once-a-week check-ins. Their tone had shifted too, becoming more accepting. Emma will be transferring to a public school. She'll take the bus, my sister wrote. She seemed to be coming to terms with reality. The dream life she used to post about on social media would never be shared again. My parents were also considering downsizing, moving from their luxurious Florida community to an affordable condo. They were struggling with medical bills, and their dream of a lavish retirement was gone. My father's latest email reflected this shift. We've been living with the wrong values for years. However, whether this realization will help restore true family bonds is still unclear. Then one week, I received a short email from Grandpa. Awakening to the truth of life sometimes brings pain, but it is necessary pain. Your decision gave them an important lesson. I didn't reply. I simply saved the email quietly. 3 months after Thanksgiving, the early signs of spring began to show in Chicago. My life had not changed much, or perhaps it had become even more fulfilling. The new research project at the pharmaceutical company was going well, and last week I received news of another promotion. My achievements as research director were recognized, and my salary would be raised to $200,000. My investment trust was also growing steadily. From my office window, I could see the vast surface of Lake Michigan, its waves sparkling in the spring sunlight, a quiet symbol of hope. Time spent at work had become my most precious time. One day, a birthday gift arrived from Grandpa, a simple pearl necklace with a card that read, "True brilliance dwells in those who stand on their own feet." I had kept my contact with my parents minimal. They had moved from their luxury Florida home to a more affordable condo, finally accepting their new reality. They seemed to be adjusting slowly, understanding that luxury brings only momentary joy, while security comes from a grounded lifestyle. For the first time, my mother's email reflected true understanding. My sister's family had also moved to a regular suburban neighborhood. Emma had started attending public school and was getting used to riding the bus. Laura's social media, once filled with images of her perfect life, had gone silent. Her online persona had disappeared, leaving behind only a reminder of the emptiness of posting just for appearances. In a rare email, my sister admitted how hard their life had become. Their marriage was still struggling, but at least they were no longer ignoring reality. I had started setting new goals for myself. I wanted to achieve more in pharmaceutical research, and one day I hoped to lead my own research team. I wanted to pass on my knowledge and experience to younger researchers. I participated in economics and finance study groups throughout the vacations. There I encountered folks who led honest, pragmatic lives without of artifice. The discussions were energizing and grounded in reality. Every member of the family learned a valuable lesson from the Thanksgiving episode. Above all, it taught us the genuine meaning of family, the importance of financial independence, and the futility of a pompous lifestyle. My heart still echoed Grandpa's parting words. Real bonds can only be born after overcoming hardship. The pearl hair clip I had purchased for Emma was still in my desk drawer, exquisitely wrapped. I'll give it to her someday when she realizes how much more important it is to be independent than to chase likes on social media. I'm hoping that timing will be appropriate. The street trees were rustling in the early spring breezes outside the window, signaling the start of a new season.